Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast, a place where we focus on the business side of art to help you attract more customers, increase profits, and ultimately live a life of creativity and financial freedom. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and this is another May Mural Month episode with muralist Chera Brooker. After we got off this interview, Chera and I both agreed, we're like, okay, if we lived in close proximity to each other, we would hang out. She's my kind of creative personality. She's very bubbly, lighthearted, and positive, and I really feed off of people's energy, and you're going to get a lot of good vibes from this interview, along with hearing us geek out over creating videos to promote our painting businesses. Chera shares her process for creating high-quality videos that get attention, which ultimately results in more jobs. So when it comes to promoting yourself as a muralist, I feel like we often forget, myself included, how much of an incredible leg up we have with being able to turn a blank wall into a colorful, eye-catching masterpiece that very few other people can do. You know, the work we do in painting is what does the marketing for us. All we have to do is capture it with short form video. Not even anything crazy long, short form. Chera shares some great hooks to begin your reels with and so many other tips, but I'll let you hear it from her. But let me know what you think about this week's episode with Chera Brooker. Hello, I'm here with Chera. How are you?
I'm good. So happy to be on today.
Yeah. So give us a snippet of how you got to where you are painting these really cool murals. I'm like, I wish I could have a better description than cool, but they're so
cool.
great.
Thank you. So yes, my name is Chera. I'm the owner and founder of Chera Creative, my painting business. So I guess to start from the beginning, I grew up in a family of artists and creatives. And so luckily I was always encouraged to be artistic growing up. My grandfather is a professional painter, and I would grow up going to his house and painting and all the things. My dad, my mom's side, everyone is creative. And so I always painted and drew growing up. I did art classes throughout school and then went to Abilene Christian University for college, where I majored in graphic design because they still did painting classes in that degree. And I wanted to learn like digital art as well. So after college, I got a job in Dallas as an art director at Mary Kay, all while doing Chera Creative on the side as a side hustle for 5.5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right out of college, I always knew my goal eventually was to do Chera Creative full time. I didn't exactly know what that would entail, but I always worked on it at nights and weekends while doing my corporate job. And then it wasn't until I found murals in 2020 that I saw the path to going full-time Chera Creative. And so after 2 years of doing both, I went full-time in 2022. And now I've been full-time Chera Creative for 2 years since. So that's like a very brief timeline of how we're here today. There's a lot of ins and outs that I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah, for sure. So how did working for like Mary Kay and that just help you go into working for yourself? Is there any lessons learned or contacts you made or anything there that helped?
So many lessons learned. I always say I'm so thankful for that job because one, it taught me the professional creative world without having so much pressure on me doing it all correctly. You know, it's like I got a paycheck no matter what. There were people in charge of me who gave me projects. And I also just refined my creative eye through that because I had great leaders and mentors who would take my work and critique it. And I would be able to see like, okay, what works, what doesn't work in a creative industry. So I absolutely loved that job. I still love everyone who worked there, still works there. Whenever I put in my 2 weeks, everyone was just so happy for me. They were along for the journey. Whenever I first started at Mary Kay, I probably had 1,000 followers on my art Instagram. So they always knew like I kind of did both. And then it got to a point where I could do it full time. So they were just so supportive.
Love it. Oh, because you don't hear that all that often. And, you know, people usually don't want you to leave your job. They're like, go spread your wings.
Yeah, exactly. When I put in my 2 weeks, my boss was like, I'm so proud of you. That's awesome. You're going to kill it. So it's awesome.
So, how did you get jobs in the beginning and how are you getting jobs now?
So, whenever, I guess technically to backtrack, my first mural I painted in college for my hometown, Merkel, Texas, which is a small town in West Texas. And I loved it, but like, didn't consider it a mural or even something I could do full time. So, fast forward 5 years later in 2020, I visited Nashville with my sister and saw all the murals they had there. And I was like, oh, I forgot like mural painting is another form of painting. I kind of want to try that again. So when I got back to Dallas, I reached out to my friend who was opening a restaurant in Dallas. And I was just like, any chance you need a mural for your restaurant? And she did. And thankfully trusted me enough to paint it as like my first professional mural. And ever since then, that one mural turned into another mural, which turned into another. And then they consistently started coming in. But I think my biggest tip and like method of that growing was just posting my work to Instagram and kind of putting out there, hey, I'm doing murals now. So if you need one, let me know.
Yeah, I would like for you to give me money to paint. Thank you. Like, yeah.
Exactly. Thank you so much. 2020, I painted about 3 to 4 murals. So it was kind of a slow growth. I was still trying to test the waters and see if I could do this full time. And once that fourth mural hit, I was like, oh, wow, I absolutely love this. I can do it full time. And I went all in 2021. I think I painted like 20 murals outside of my full time job, which was a little crazy, but it got me to the point where I was able to go full time. So
Awesome. Did you do canvases too, or mostly just murals?
there was something different about murals that I enjoyed. I think eventually I'll work canvas work back into my business, but right now murals are just booming. So I'm focusing on that.
They are booming. It is a booming time for murals.
Everyone wants like a social worthy, interactive mural for their business or home or whatever. It's
Yeah.
great. It's great for us.
So when somebody approaches you and they want a mural, say it's something outside of your scope of what you usually do you take on the job anyway, or do you just stick to what, because you have a really cool style?
It's kind of been a slow growth into that. I would say my first year or two, I just took any mural that came my way. And if the style they wanted wasn't necessarily my style, I would kind of design it in a way that it worked for them, but also worked for me. But now mural leads come in very regularly, thankfully. And so I can be a little bit more particular with what projects I take on. I mean, I still do some projects that I don't post to my Instagram. That's like kind of a little fun fact. Not a lot, because I've gotten a lot better at not taking on projects that aren't good for my business. But there's a few that I'm like, I don't think I want to paint another one of these. So I don't post it. It's like you kind of want to things that you want to paint again, if that makes sense.
It's so true. So what is your thing? So I always ask guests, like, what is your special sauce that you think is, catapulted you maybe above others, or just have been able to, has been an ingredient, a specific like main ingredient into your success?
This probably isn't going to be the most unique answer, but it's what I tell everyone when they ask is posting your work to Instagram and especially Reels. When I first discovered Reels, I remember exactly which mural it was. I did one transition, where it just like went from the beginning to the end and it like blew up. And I, started to get followers and engagement and a community. And I was like, wait a second, this is actually really good. And so since then, I've consistently posted 1 to 2 to 3 reels per mural. And that has truly grown my brand, social media, connections, community, everything just through posting it, which can be pretty vulnerable at first. especially if you're just starting out wanting to pursue the art industry. Putting your artwork out there is very vulnerable, especially if it's just your friends and family following you. Like, I've been there. If you scroll to the very bottom of my Instagram, I still have my college art projects on my Instagram because, well, actually, fun fact, my sister, I'm going on a little tangent here. My sister started my art Instagram for me in college. She believed in me so much. She was like, you need to post your artwork. I'm starting you an Instagram just for your art. And it was originally Chera Art was the handle. And that has evolved into Chera Creative today. But if you scroll down to my first few posts, the top likes are all my family. There's probably like 20 likes. And that's okay. Like, you just have to start putting it out there and see where your artwork grows, because it will if you just are consistent about it.
Okay, yeah, let's get into reels and like what makes a good reel and whatnot. But first, I just want to comment on you seem like you have a really good support system behind you. And I think that is so great. Like with your family, has all of your family been like, yeah, go do art, or just your sister?
Always.
Oh, great.
Literally my whole family, my whole life. My dad was the one who researched, because I initially was going to play basketball in college, which doing basketball and art is kind of tough at the same time. But then I decided not to play basketball to pursue art, which is kind of one of those life decisions I'm so grateful for. But my dad was the one who was like, maybe you should do graphic design because you could still paint and learn a new skill. And so, yeah, my whole family has always been supportive, bought me all the paintbrushes and paint and things to encourage me to do that. And then now I have a husband who is just as supportive. And he actually was the one who was like, whenever I actually quit my corporate job 2 months before our wedding, which was just like a crazy time. But he was like fully supportive, fully believed in me. And yeah, so between him and my family, I have a really great support system.
That's so great. So on to reels. I also love reels. So let's nerd out with it. What is your, like, do you have any kind of like made up rules in your head? I have a couple, like I'll make a video and then if I'm not like completely set on like the editing and the stuff of it, I'll like put it in my drafts and then I'll view it the next day and see like if I need to take things out. Like, so would you have anything where like any weird habits that you do or anything?
Oh, goodness. Yes. I'm the same way. Something I've learned about reels is it's good to keep them concise. That doesn't mean you have to keep them short, but just keep it to the interesting parts.
Mhm.
And so the reel I just posted of the like leafy, moody botanical mural, the initial reel I made was like 2.5 minutes long of footage. It was so long. And I was like, I can't post a reel that long. No one would watch it. And so I just kept editing it down and down, like speeding up parts, taking out parts until I got it down to a minute. I feel like I try and not go over a minute for my reels, but there are some, if I'm storytelling for a project, I'll go over a minute because it's like interesting things, the story.
Okay, so you do voiceovers and then you do, or is it
Yeah.
just text on the thing?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
This year, I've started experimenting with voiceovers, and especially the project I did, I painted a mural on two wind turbines. And that was it was a 2 week long project. We woke up at 3 a.m. for 10 days to beat the heat. Like, it was just such a unique project that I decided to put all the footage together and do a voiceover to do storytelling of the whole experience because I just had so much to share about that project. So sometimes I'll do voiceovers, but then sometimes I'm like, I don't have enough to say. I'll just put it to music.
Okay, yeah. My voiceovers don't go over very well. So I'm like, man, what are your thoughts on having captions or something to read on the video? Do you do that often? I haven't looked through all of your videos.
I have started to do it more. I would say, well, I guess when I first started Reels, I would do captions almost every time. Then I went through a phase of not, and I'm kind of back to adding some text on top. Like I just added 20 hours of painting in 60 seconds. And that just is kind of the hook for people to be like, whoa, 20 hours and 60 seconds, like I have to watch. So I've started to do it, but sometimes it takes away from the video or it's not needed and I just leave it.
Okay, that's a really good hook, actually, because I've seen that on other people's and it does hook me in, especially when they're like 50 hours of painting. I'm like, what? Why?
What?
How you have patience? Oh my gosh. Okay,
Yes.
that's a good hook. What's some other good hooks that you've used or ways to get people in on your,
I also think music is so important.
okay, like trending audio or just that it fits or what?
A little bit of both. I almost always use trending audio because it just helps with views and engagement. But then also, I'll go days looking through music to find the right music to fit the video. If it's like such a fun, punchy video, but your music is dragging, it's like, oh, it's such a loss. Like, oh, you were so close. And so I will do trending music, but then also sometimes I'll do reels where it's more important to pick the right music for the reel than trending music, I guess. So it kind of just depends, but I try and make sure the music fits the video.
Okay. Yeah. My favorite is when I can hit like a beat drop or a beat change between things. I'm like, oh, okay, great.
Yes, that's the other thing. Like, I'll edit it first in CapCut. That's like my favorite editing tool. And then I'll pull it in, find music, and I'm like, oh, that beat actually goes perfect. Then I'll edit it further to hit the beats,
Yes.
you know? So it's just kind of like a back and forth of seeing what you could do to make the most engaging reel.
Okay, great. So one thing that I come across is when people say they're like, oh, I don't like to film myself. I forget or whatever. And sometimes I don't like to, and I forget as well. But I find that a lot of people, even though they know that reels, and you're a great example of that too, like, you know that reels work, they still just don't want to do it. They're like, no, like, so what are your thoughts on that of like maybe ways to get into a good habit or what do you do?
I've almost just made it part of my routine. And I know it's not enjoyable. Like content creation and being a creative, they don't always go hand in hand. But if you want your business to grow, it's kind of just a nice tool that we have that we can take advantage of. So sometimes I will find a trend or a video that I want to do where I go into a project with a plan and that helps because it's like, okay, I know I need to capture the beginning of the project and then the same thing at the end for a transition. And then you don't have to like capture the entire process if you don't want to. You could just do it before and after. That's really easy. But then sometimes I don't have a plan. So I literally record everything. And it is a hassle. I always say, like, I could probably shave off a day of painting if I didn't have to record it. But like those recordings and that content is what gets me more jobs and more leads. Like, it's truly money, like profitable money just recording those videos by getting new projects. So it's just part of the business now. And I just keep my phone on a tripod and just move it from place to place.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think it's good to people hearing that from you too, because I feel like I preach it all the time in the academy. I'm like, you are losing money if you do not record yourself. And so, yeah, I'm
Yes.
good.
Yeah, it's truly like black and white. That is so true. And I've said this example before, but there was a project where I had just finished. I was exhausted because, as you know, like mural painting, it's hard work. It's so fun, but also like very hard work. And I had finally finished, but I forgot that I had done like a snapping transition and I had gotten all the befores and I needed to get the afters. And I was just so ready to be like, done. I was like, okay, let me just capture these. It took probably 1 minute to capture those afters. And that video got 5 million views. And I gained like 30,000 followers just from taking 1 minute out of my day to capture that. So it genuinely pays off, even if you don't feel like it at the time. Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah. Even if you don't feel like, because there's a lot of times I don't feel like it either. And I'm like, okay, hold on. I got to do this real, and because you're tired at the end of the day. So
Especially that last day. There's a few murals I've posted recently where I'm not in the last day footage because I looked terrible. I was exhausted. I was like, okay, we're just capturing what it looks like in the end, and that'll be good.
yeah, or I'm like, I'm just gonna get the camera far away and like I'm just stand on the opposite side. Do you find that there's a certain style that works best for you? So I feel like and I don't know why I don't do these more. Actually, just kidding. I know why. So in the beginning, I forget to take a video of the clean white wall. And then so at the end, I'm like, oh man, I should have done a transition video. And I feel like those are the easiest ones. They grab the most attention because they get people's attention really easily. And it's just an easy one to do. It's if you remember. So I guess I'm just making a mental note to myself to remember on the next one, getting in the habit. But is there a specific style of video that you tend to go towards like than others?
I alternate, honestly, depending on the mural and depending on, like you said, if I forget. Like, if I forget to capture it before, which I normally don't, like I'll at least get a pan of it, but I almost have to plan if I'm going to do it before and after because I have to like see where I set my tripod, tape it off so that I can put it back in the exact same spot at the end. But I rotate types of reels. I'll do before and after transitions. I'll do time lapses like the most recent one I did. And then I'll also do some where I'll just show close ups of brushstrokes. That one's a pretty easy one if you do forget to do a before and you don't take a lot of time lapses, just get close ups of like 10 brushstrokes because one, it's satisfying. It's like the viewer is like, oh, that's like such a clean line. And look at the paint. That's wonderful. And so you do 10 close up brushstrokes and then zoom out for the final mural. Like that's an easy one. So it honestly just depends on what I capture. And sometimes I'll just capture a ton of footage and figure it out afterwards.
Yeah, for sure. Do you find that you being in the video is helpful for views or?
Yes, because it helps like the viewer have a personal connection with the artwork and they see like, oh, a person painted that and like they kind of can personalize it. But I've had murals or reels like the close-up brushstroke where I wasn't in it at all and they did great too. So I don't think there's like a big rule on that. It's more so just it being engaging and entertaining from the get-go and like capturing viewers within the first 3 seconds, honestly.
Okay, I got you. Okay, so what's something to do within the first 3 seconds? And then like so I guess something putting a hook on there.
Yeah, putting a hook, showing like something really satisfying, like the brushstroke or pouring paint
Mm,
out, or like showing your artwork from the very beginning, where it's like, this is what it's going to end up being. And then you start over showing the process of how you got there.
okay. I really like making videos, not every day all the time, but I really like the creation part of it, the editing and just making it. It's like we're making mini movies. It's like another painting. Do you think the same way or is it like a task?
I think the same way. I love it. And that probably goes back. I've always kind of had that editing bug. Weirdly, I was a cheerleader in high school and would edit music together
Mm,
for our like cheer routines. And so like I've always been in those programs editing clips together. And I've done like video editing and just all sorts of editing. So it thankfully it comes naturally. But yeah, I love it. It's fun. And it's fun, like I feel like every time I edit a reel of my artwork, I get so excited because I'm like, it's exciting to see the way that you capture your artwork and share it to the world. It's like, oh, this is really cool. Like it hits the beats. It's like showing the artwork and yeah, I just love it.
Okay, yeah, I think the same way. I just like to talk to somebody else who likes it because most people I talk to, they're like, I don't want to do it.
Yes, it is a muscle you have to build. And then once you do and you get used to the editing and kind of the system, it gets easier
Yeah.
and more exciting.
It's faster too. It doesn't take up as much time, I guess. But yeah, easier and you get better at it. It just gets, the product gets better. And then you get views. And then that's really the exciting part too.
I was just about to say, once you get one video that gets a lot of views, then you're like, oh, I love this. I'm doing more. You get a little boost in your system there.
Do you ever? So recently I put on the thing on Instagram. I'm like to hide likes. Like I don't want to see somebody else's likes. I don't want to see, I even hide my own sometimes because I feel like it really bothers me when I do a video that doesn't get hardly any. And I'm like, well, but I liked that. But I guess it's a good learning point. But I'm like, but it was kind of, I would get to the point where I would only post a couple times a week because I was like, I know that this video isn't going to do well. And so finally I'm like, heck with it. I just want to post whatever I want to post. And so I think hiding the likes helps for me. Do you have any thoughts in that area?
So I go through waves as well. Sometimes I don't know what it is, if it's like the projects or what, like it just depends on if reels do well or not. And I truly don't know. There are some that I'm like, oh, I loved that like got no views. But what I've been doing the last few months, and it's kind of hard to do, but I don't look at my reel after I post it. Like, which is so hard. And they tell you not to do that. Like, you're not supposed to post and ghost. And I technically don't ghost, but I'll stay in the comments section, like the little heart notification. I'll stay there. And like, if I get comments, I'll respond back to them. And kind of from those comments and likes, I can see like, okay, like I think it's doing well, but I won't look at the view count until like a week later because I'm like, I don't want it to affect like how I keep producing content. And I just want to post it because I loved it and I think it's great. So it doesn't matter how many views it gets. And I'm just going to engage with the people who are engaging with it.
Yeah, for sure. It's like a game. I go back and I'm like, okay, it has 5,000 views. Okay, it didn't tank. And then it's like when it has 10,000, I'm like, okay, it's decent. And then it gets 20 and I'm like, all right, or something like that.
Yeah, me too. Every time I update my husband, I'm like, guess how many views I have today?
I do that too. And he's like, 2 million. I'm like, stop. No, you know, my numbers seem low.
Don't steal my thunder here. It has 30,000.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So what are some, I guess, just some last words, some business tips that you found helpful or lessons learned or stories or something that we can end with?
I think my biggest thing for artists who want to eventually become full-time artists is to just pursue it consistently, even if it's like on the weekends or at nights outside of your full-time job. Like, just keep creating artwork and sharing it to the world. And that doesn't even mean you have to know exactly what you want to do yet. Before I found murals, I tried everything under the sun in terms of artwork, like canvas work, prints. I did wedding invitations. I painted graduation caps, champagne bottles, which are all still on my Instagram. So if you want to see the evolution of Chera Creative, you totally can. But like, try it all and see what you love. You really won't know unless you try it. There's no pressure trying it and not liking it. Like, I abandoned so many ventures that I was like, I don't like this. This doesn't fulfill me. And then just kept chasing after it one step at a time until it just built into what it is today. So I would just kind of stay focused, head down, stay creative. Don't look at likes because it's like you have to do it for you and because you truly love it and you know the potential that you have and the future that you want for yourself. If you get stuck in the weeds of likes and comments, that may halt you in your goals. So
true.
That's probably my best advice.
Yeah, so true. I do a couple of paintings on canvas. They don't get very much likes, but I get orders for them. And I'm like, this is conflicting, but I'll take it. But okay.
Exactly. And that's like, honestly, I tell myself this too. That's why I think goal setting is important. whether it's small goals or kind of big goals, like mine was wanting to go full-time Chera creative. It took me 5 years to get there, but I knew what I was working towards. So the likes and the comments and the minuscule things like that honestly didn't bother me. I was just like, I know what I'm working towards, and I don't need other people's validation to get there. And I still feel that way. Like sometimes if a reel tanks, I'm like, that's kind of a bummer, but I know my goals for the year and I'm posting these things to reach my goal. And that's ultimately worth it to me.
Yeah, for sure. I got you. Well, thank you so much for coming and chatting and geeking out about video with me. I hope that this episode inspires people to just get into video a bit more, because it does help. It helps my business. It helps your business, and it can help whoever's listening as well.
Yes,
so
it's the best.
It's the best. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Of course. Great talking with you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Artist Academy podcast. I hope you're enjoying this Muralist Month feature with all of the large-scale painting talk. I know I am. But if you are wanting to start dabbling in murals yourself, or you think that you could just use a little help with that, I want to, again, point out all of the freebies that I offer. I just did a video training on how I price my mural projects. So I put out a pricing guide in the past. I have since updated it, and I've attached a video training with examples, like visual examples of projects that I've done with price tags on them. So I share exactly what I painted, what I charged for it. I even share some of the murals that I did early on that I drastically undercharged for. I show you that, and I show you what I would have charged for now, and just how I price things now versus back then. And yeah, I basically open up my website and go through photos of like, oh, yep, charged $5,000 for that one, did this wrong on this one, and you get the whole inside scoop. I share this in the inside of the Artist Academy as I do them. So Artist Academy members, you already have this training and you already see things like this as they're happening. I literally finish a project and then I share it inside of the Academy and say it went really well, or we had this hiccup, or I charged this much and then I profited this much. I spent this much in help. I spent this much in supplies. I share it all in the Artist Academy as I go. So I was like, okay, they really enjoy that. I'm going to take a mini version of that, put it on our training mural pricing guide thing, and you get to get a little snippet of that too. So go to artistacademy.co/pricing, or really better yet, just click the link in this podcast and it'll take you right to the pricing training, and you get to be a snoop and see how I price my stuff. And if you want to get even snoopier, you can also go to artistacademy.co/supply, where you get, you guessed it, my mural supply list with links and everything to all of my mural supplies. So you get to see how I price, and you get to see what I use to paint. So 2 big things. Take advantage of it if you're curious at all. So the mural supply list, I also include a video. I take you inside of my art studio and show you exactly what products that I have between the paint and why I use this paint over this other paint. And I show you what it looks like. I show you all the different brushes. I show you my 3 different ladders that I own and why I have 3 ladders and which is best for which project. I go pretty thorough. I show you everything. I even show you how I tote things around so that I don't have to make 10 trips to the car. It's all there. So artistacademy.co/supply. Just go to the show notes of here and you can click the links. But I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and I will catch you on the next one.